what an extended family he had and all these people that he loved spending time with. So thanks again for coming to remember him. Really appreciate it. Eric Simpson, he was born on the 3rd of April 1954, son of the late William and Annie Simpson. He was an only child. He was age 65, although you wouldn't know he was 65 at all, and I can't tell you how many people have texted me and are still flabbergasted that he was 65. Just a young at heart. Thinking back this morning, he lived near me, and I would go to work every day, or I'd get up early and I'd go for a surf, and for some reason we would pass each other most mornings. Either it was in the dark on the way for a surf, or coming home from a surf, and I'd see him coming out of his unit, and he'd be walking out. We'd give each other a cheeky wave and a smile, and it was a great little thing that we used to have. I don't know what, we'd pass each other daily, and it was kind of like a mutual thing where we'd sort of just enjoy that we both starting the day out in a positive way. And he'd be always going for a walk on the beach, or I'd see him in the car going to the gym, and he wasn't fanatical about going to the gym, but he was a fit person, and he was always wanting to start the day positively. But he'd be the first guy to have a beer with you at the surf club, or cheers to someone that he loved at a function or something like that. So he'd come into the office every day after starting with a walk or a surf, and Jan would attest to this. The first thing he would say would be the first thing he'd say was balance. Zach, have you got your balance for today? How's your balance going? And I think out of anyone I know, he worked it out. He knew the balance of life. He'd always get pissed off at me if I'd mention his age. If I was at a meeting or a team meeting or something, and I said he was an old bastard or something, he would pull me up after the meeting, call me, and fully roast me about mentioning his age. He hated it. And Barb, you mentioned to me the other day that he mentioned to you many, many times that he didn't want to die old.
Didn't want to grow old.
That was his mindset.
Yes.
Young at heart, as they say.
Look how handsome.
And his dick dog.
Oh, he's so young. Yeah.
He attended the Devonish Primary School and then Enniskillen Technical College. He was a member of the Enniskillen Aqua Club, showing a passion for diving at a very young age. That particular club is a registered branch of the British Scuba Aqua Club, and it's the largest dive club in the world. He became a telephone engineer and also drove a lorry for a concrete company. Would you believe a lorry? Yeah. Family moved and lived in the town in Enniskillen, where Eric set up his own upholstery business known as Co Furniture, recycling and manufacturing. We understand that he actually did upholstery work for the Buckingham Palace. He booked his first trip to Australia with his fiancée Linda after he got engaged, which I found out about, which was quite crazy. But according to his mate Gordon from Ireland, he claimed he was drunk when he bought the ring. The engagement actually ended before the trip even got started, but in spite of that, they travelled together as planned, and this was a measure of Eric's ability not to opt out and not to fall out with people whom he has issues with. He returned to Ireland with his mother when she was very ill and stayed back in Ireland for around 2 years looking after her. He had a very close friend in Ireland, his name was Gordon, who he lived with at the time for 2 years. I've spoken to him quite a bit recently, and he sends his best to Eric on this day. And Gordon quoted, he said, "I don't think I've ever laughed as much as when I shared a house with Eric in 1994 and 1995 when Eric returned to Ireland for 2 years to take care of his mum. He greatly admired him for doing this as a selfless act, and he said it was so obvious when he visited his mum how much she adored her only child." On his last trip home with Gordon drove him round to visit virtually all the people that he ever knew, his cousins, the places that he lived, and it was never said, but he knew that he saw this as his last farewell journey home. Audrey, an ex-girlfriend from way back in Ireland, commented that he was like a Peter Pan type character, never appearing of age despite spending years in the sun, which is classic Eric. He returned to Australia in June 1995 and he moved from upholstery into real estate. I got a message from Gordon this morning and he just said, in the end, after much striving, he made his life where he wanted in the land that he loved. He was very successful while in real estate and had the reputation of being extremely hardworking, loyal, and someone you could 100% trust. He was adored by all his clients who I've seen here today and his co-workers, and he was a true legend and one of the good guys without a bad bone in his body. He was very generous with his time and he'd always go out of his way to help someone if they needed. We'll miss you, mate. I got a text from a friend of his and he said to me this morning, he said, "Let it be Eric's legacy that we need to retain the old-fashioned ideal of just being nice to each other." And I couldn't agree more. We'll miss you, Eric. Here's a cheers to Eric.
Mick's going to be microphone boy now. Good morning everyone and welcome. My name's Sue and I'm a friend of Barb and Eric's. I'm speaking on behalf of Barb, Eric's partner. Eric was born in Inniskillen, a town in Northern Ireland. He was an only child. After leaving school, he trained as an upholsterer and worked for some years before saving enough money to be able to travel to Australia with his girlfriend. Once they arrived, they headed to the outback. Eric loved it. Unfortunately, his mother became ill, so he returned to Ireland to care for her until she died a few years later. Eric then came back to Australia and moved to the Gold Coast. He got a job at QCM in Burleigh as an upholsterer, where he was involved in some major projects like the big renovation for the Marriott in Surfers. Eventually, Eric set himself up in his own upholstery business, but after some time he realised he didn't like it. He found it lonely and boring. It didn't make him happy. Then a friend suggested he try being a real estate agent. Initially, he got a job in Broadbeach, but he really found his feet when he began working for Mick and the team at Realty Blue. Whoops. To Eric, Realty Blue was like a family. Many of you will know that Eric didn't just sell houses. He loved to help the clients. He would pitch in with packing, sorting, runs to the tip, whatever was needed if the client needed help. He loved feeling useful. But of course, Eric had some other passions. One was golf. At 4:30, almost every afternoon for years, Eric could be found at one of the local courses with a bucket of balls on the practice range, whacking away, trying to perfect his swing. He went through loads of coaches and thousands of balls. He rarely played with other people because he never thought he was good enough. For a while, Eric enjoyed fishing, and with Graham the golf pro, he would try his luck on the 19th Avenue Bridge or Tallabudgera Creek, but he didn't have much luck catching fish. So he decided to get back into scuba diving so then he could at least see the fish. So about 4 years ago, Eric hooked up with Rudy and Christy at Kira Dive and refreshed his diving skills, becoming passionate about it. and eventually becoming a dive master. Eric loved diving locally at Cook Island or heading off to more far-flung places with Barb or Kira Dive, or even travelling solo on a liveaboard dive boat. He became a skilled underwater photographer, and he has had some of his photos published just recently in an Australian dive magazine. Now finally, at a personal level, to Barb. Barb and Eric have been partners for 22 years, not continuously, as they did break up amicably for a few years, but then Eric realised his folly, and so he worked hard at wooing Barb back, even taking surfboard riding lessons with Tracy, Barb and the girls. Poor Eric, that was one skill he never mastered. I asked Barb what initially attracted to Eric, and she said, well, for a start, he wasn't too bad on the eyes. Also, Barb grew to love Eric's kindness, his honesty, his softness, and his generous spirit. Barb tells me that recently she said to Eric, you love diving first, then golf comes in second, and I'm only third. And Eric replied, no, you come first, because I can't do the other two without you. So to conclude, a farewell message from Barb to Eric in her words. Hey, my handsome man, I thought we'd grow old together, buy that caravan and tour the outback like we wanted. But now you're gone and I'm lost without you. I love you so much. I know you're happy and your beautiful spirit is in the ocean. I'll be in the ocean surfing the great waves you send me, and we will be together always.
Does anyone want to come up and say something?
Hi, I'm one of the tour divers that has seen Eric and his passion for the ocean, so it's been a wonderful experience to have been involved in that with him. A lot of the stuff that's been said, Christy just indicated we don't want to cover old ground. I wrote a small bit of prose which I shared to a lot of our close friends, but I'd like to share it with the rest of you. I think it sort of reflects Eric and his passion for the ocean. If the weather looks good and the water is fine, it's a chance we're heading off to the Nine. Count me in, says our gentleman mate. He was never one to miss a diving date. With a smile that we all love to see, underwater was where he longed to be. Camera in tow, we often saw him about. Let's get wet, you would hear him shout. The turtles knew him out there at Cook. Over they would swim to have a look. Well loved by many who knew his style, a charming bloke with a great big smile. We all laughed at him about his new zip, but between the dives, he would let it rip. On one thing we relied, and he would never fail, that surface intervals were times to share a tale. Friends were made on trips near and far, but always returned to the old Tweed Bar. Right now, we send all the love that extends, remembered and missed by family and friends. I think it really reflects Eric, and hope that you enjoyed listening to that. But one thing that we always knew, 7 a.m, come a weekend, that's where he'd be. He'd be looking out there at the ocean, and just, he was just such a great friend to all. So thank you very much for letting us be part of today.
One thing that we loved most was his sort of systems that he had. He was so organised, and we're so not organised. Our boat would meet at 7 o'clock, he'd be there at 6:30. The boat's not even there yet. And he'd have this big black tub with all his dive gear in it and a bright yellow lid, and it's ready on the sidewalk to go. And his little beach towel rolled up on top. So he was so ready, he was waiting, we're always late. He was so excited, and he was one of our best. And yeah, we really miss him.
My name's David, my wife Jan, work with Eric. got a message. This one is from Sharon, first of all. Eric, you have touched our hearts and so sorely missed. The office won't ever be the same without you. We had a special bond. You made me laugh every day. You came into my office to pull my hair, shake my chair, to ask me if I had balance, to simply just annoy me and tell me you were starving, so I'd give you half my lunch, and always proceed with your daily ritual, which was to rub my shawl. And she put that in, I would wonder what's going to happen. Scarf, in brackets, on the back of my chair, because you always said it gave you good luck. Eric, you are actually like a dad to me. And a huge part of me is missing, but I want to thank you for being you and always there for me. We also want to thank you for being a huge part of the Realty Blue team. You'll be incredibly missed by the team, and we love you so much. I also want to say a huge thank you to Mick Brace and Trudy for going above and beyond, helping and supporting Barbara on the day, and for driving to Southwest Rocks for support and to organise proceedings. Barb, we are so sorry for your loss. We are here for you and we love you. That's from Sharon. And my wife Jan has written, Eric, 2 weeks and we are supposed to keep going on as if everything is good. It's not good. You're not here. The quiet wine or beer and chats that we had, you're asking how I am because you always knew when something was wrong, and asking after B and Shazzy because you cared about them so much. Leaving the office door open, walking over to your unit to get your car, and it's parked outside the office. I can't work while I'm hungry. It's at 9 o'clock in the morning. What's wrong with this effing computer? Turning the air conditioning off numerous times. And then the old word comes into saying again, balance. I miss all this. Barbara, I cannot imagine what you are going through and hope I never do. My love goes out to you. The Realty Blue team has lost a good man. Eric was one in a million and I miss him so much. The friendship we had was genuine and that I really miss. Love to you, Eric.
Hello. My name is Bianca. I work with Eric. And I'm terrified right now. Our Eric, or as we used to call him, Eric, held a special place in our hearts. He had a special relationship with each of us and had this innate ability to know when something wasn't quite right in our world. He always had time for us, unless he was dealing with multiple offers. Or multiple offers. I hate multiple offers. And he took the time out to make sure we were okay, albeit with an annoying hair pull or shake of the office chair. He loved to rile us girls up and about his thoughts on life, particularly marriage, gay marriage, women's rights, and Christmas. For years he told us he wasn't going to get Barb anything for her birthday because why? It's just stuff. But much to all of our shock and amazement, we've since found out he used to surprise Barb every year with a big bunch of flowers. Cheeky bugger, he truly pulled the wool over our eyes. Eric also had a special relationship with food. It was the answer for everything. Can't think? Have food. Too stressed? Have food. Bored? Have food. In our household, my partner knew if there was food left in the pan, that it wasn't for his lunch, it was for Eric. He also loved to have a good whinge. It's too cold, I don't have enough work, I have too much work. Never thought I'd miss arguing over half a degree, but here we are. Sorry. Eric was unapologetically Eric, and we loved that about him. He was particular, genuine, heartfelt, and had a way of connecting with people. He was like a dad and a brother to us. And we will miss the beautiful energy and happiness he trailed through the office and into our lives. Finally, If I could sum Eric up, there's one word that epitomises our dear friend, and it's balance.